I think I better tell you how I became obsessed with the power of human consciousness. It started in middle school when I started playing volleyball, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. It was a great way to work out stress, and I loved athletics, and it just gave me something I definitely really needed in my life. But as I progressed, I'd have coaches come in and talk about the mental game. And I had a coach say that, you can visualize anytime you want practicing really well. And it's like you get extra hours of practice just by doing that. Well, I started to have a dream of being a Division I college athlete and getting a full ride scholarship. And I took those lessons very seriously. So every night before I started going to bed, I started picturing myself doing these skills perfectly. And I started thinking that this could be the edge I had over other athletes so that I could get better and better and better because I loved it so much. Long story short, as a result of that and everything else, I did at 5'8.5" get a full ride Division I scholarship. And it was an iconic memory that I will never forget. I remember being in those sessions where people were talking about the power of our minds, and most of the girls just kind of drifting off and not paying attention. And I was riveted. So I don't know if I came into the world with this desire, but it spoke to me and then it showed me something. I also had the angst of my parents' marriage really not working and living in the turmoil of that for my childhood. So as I was growing up, I had a clarity that I was probably not going to get married. I was probably going to turn into my parents and not be able to make a marriage work. So I was very cynical, and I thought, I'm not going to do that, except I gave myself an out. In my mind, I thought, the only way I would ever do that is if I found someone with whom I could truly be my whole self with, that I could be honest with, that I could share everything I'm going through life with, and they could with me. And other than that, I didn't want any part of it. I found out that mental image brought me that very thing. When I met my now husband, I kept breaking up with him because it wasn't deep enough, because I couldn't feel myself enough, and he wasn't either. So I kept breaking up with him until one point he said, you're right, I'm holding back and I'm going to go all in now. And it kept getting better and better and better. And because I had that mental image in my mind, we ended up getting married and writing our philosophy of marriage based on that vision that I had that has served us to this day. And that basically was that we were going to be honest with each other no matter how uncomfortable it was. Meaning that our marriage was, we're going to go through life and life is going to change us. It's dynamic. You never know what life is going to do, but you are the person I'm going to share my experience, what it's doing for me. And I'm going to share that with you. And there might be times when I want to do something that could take me away from you, or you might want to go away from me. And I just want you to tell me if that's true, because I love you enough that if you truly have to do something that's going to take you away from me and I love you, then I want you to do it and I will be strong enough to handle it. So we built those principles into our marriage. And now, almost 30 years later, that is still serving us. Our kids have graduated and left the house, and we are excited every night to come home to each other because it's never stopped being interesting when you do it that way. But I didn't have a template for that. No one had taught me to do it that way. I didn't have any positive template for a marriage that worked. But because of the visual image in my mind, the only way I ever wanted to do marriage was in my consciousness. That's what I ended up getting. When I was 24, I had another experience that proved to me that something is going on with the power of our consciousness. And that was when I decided to go to a spiritual retreat at a school called Ramtha's School of Enlightenment. We had heard about it through my husband's karate class. And the things that teacher was saying seemed remarkable to us, and neither of us could deny it. So we read a book about it, and I looked online, and I found that there was a school and that it was 2 hours away. And I just thought, well, we have to go. So we went to an introductory weekend, and we were taught there that we are godlings. We are divine entities who have forgotten that we are, and that we are playing with life and life is playing with us. But the teacher would say, That's not your truth. That's only my truth. And if you don't experience it yourself, you won't believe me, and you shouldn't. So we had to do these exercises. So I'm going to fast forward. We had gone to the introduction weekend, and we were pretty intrigued. And then Pat wanted to go to a longer one that was 6 weeks long. Well, he had just gotten his first career, and they get 1 week of vacation. So he had to have the courage to ask his boss for 6 weeks of vacation in his first career, knowing that how ridiculous that request is going to seem to this boss, how entitled, how ridiculous. But he had the courage to do it, and he went. And he came back from that retreat, and he said, there's another one coming in October, and I think you're going to want to go. Well, I was a teacher at the time. So to ask for 4 weeks off, mine was 4 weeks long. To ask for 4 weeks off in October would be ludicrous as well. I get summers and spring break and Christmas break. There's no way I'm going to get October off. So I decided I had to do it. And I was willing to put my reputation on the line and even my job on the line, because what was being taught at that school was something that related to this thing I had been seeming to get from my life, and I needed to know more about it. So after 2 years of teaching and being the cool teacher and knowing I had a really good reputation, I went and I sat down with my boss and I said, I have to tell you something. I want to go to a retreat. It's 4 weeks and it's in October, and I don't want to lose my job. I love my job, but I am going to go. He said, surprisingly, well, I don't know why I'm saying yes to this, but I will get you a long-term sub. So I was able to go to that retreat because something in me knew that I needed to. At that retreat, we did a thing called field work. And this taught me what was going on with my consciousness that I had seen through my marriage and through the volleyball things in a way that was completely undeniable to me and that will really blow your mind. So we were put on a football field, slightly smaller than a football field, size field with a fence around it. And we were told that since we are godlings and we have forgotten, we need to remember that our consciousness is interacting with reality, and that reality is hearing us and interacting with us. But we don't know it until we experience it. So we would put an image on a card that was something we wanted in our lives. And then we would put them in a baggie, and then we'd exchange them with all the other students. And at my retreat, there were about 300 students. We each had 2 cards that we did. So we'd scatter them out throughout the audience face down so nobody was seeing anybody's images. And we'd go out to that fence and we'd clip them on the fence, face side toward the fence. So there was just a bunch of blank white cards as far as you could see in baggies on the fence in this field that was surrounded by a fence that was about 2/3 the size of a football field. Then we went out there and we're instructed to put on a blindfold, walk, envision our dream, which is our card. Picture that dream in your head over and over and over again, and don't let it falter. Don't get distracted by other thoughts. Don't do anything other than keep that image in your mind. Now, I had done this exercise at the beginning retreat, and at that time, I was looking at this going, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I would think, there's no way. And I would think, I'm hungry. We would be out there for 2 to 3 hours, and I'd be like, I'm hungry. This is dumb. When's lunch going to come? And of course, I never did find my card. But this time, since I had put my job on the line, since I had risked my reputation, and I was committed for a month, I thought I might as well give everything to this. I'm here to find out if what is being taught is true. So I have nothing else to do than commit to it. So I went out on that field, and I just promised myself that all I would do is if the image, faded from my mind, I would just bring it back up constantly, no matter what. And I promised myself I would do that. And I went out there and I started walking, and I think I probably wandered around for about 40 minutes, never touching a fence, until finally I hit the fence. And there was a card underneath my hand. And I lifted my blindfold and I turned over the card, and that card was my card. that I had drawn. I didn't even bump into another card. I somehow walked directly to the card I had drawn. Unless you've experienced something like that, you can't imagine how it feels. You literally look around and going, oh my, what's going on? What's happening? This world is not the world I thought it was. And indeed, it wasn't anymore because I knew I had done that. And there's no statistical way that that could happen. Blindfolded, 600 cards out there, I walked directly to mine. And was not the only time it happened. Pat had done it at his retreats. I did it again another day in 15 minutes. Something was and is going on with our consciousness, and that launched me even more passionately into finding out how this works. What are we made of? Fast forward to having twins, which, by the way, I had to use this power to make happen because I had fertility issues. And so I had to envision it a lot and all sorts of things. But anyway, fast forward to having my twins. I hit another deep low in my life. And that was when my daughter was depressed. And I would come home for about a year every day after dropping her off from school and cry because I was so worried about her. And I had tried everything, thought I had tried everything, and she just wasn't getting happier. So I had about a year of coming home, sitting, crying, praying, and then meditating and imagining life being better. And it was really hard. It was a really hard year because after everything I had done to try to overcome my own childhood trauma, to build something better, to make a marriage work without a template, and to have these beautiful children and be a dedicated mother and then have this sad child, I thought, what else can I do? And I was in a moment of absolute desperation after crying and praying and meditating. But in meditation, my energy would rise. And I, for that part, after I had cried and released, and after I had prayed and been vulnerable, then I would meditate and bring my energy up and passionately dream. Passionately about what I long for here. And I said out loud to whatever can listen, I know that after we die, things are good. I've studied near-death experiences since I was 15 years old. I know that. But I can't stand it here. And I don't want to die. I need to find out how I can experience that kind of beauty that I know exists without having to die. I had no idea how that would be possible, but it was what I longed for. And I got this vision, this symbol that came to me, and it was an infinity symbol because my spirituality was so strong. I had studied human consciousness, spirituality. I had meditated, practiced, done my work so hard that I knew something beautiful existed, but I couldn't find it to feel beautiful here. So I felt like this part of the infinity symbol was so strong, but this over here on earth isn't matching up at all. And I need those to flow. I need that infinity. I need that spirituality to flow into this reality here. I had no idea how that could happen. I just needed to know if it could. I just needed to ask for that to happen. That day, I was driving, I don't even remember where, except I remember the exact street. After having that meditation and that prayer and that passion, I turned a corner and right in front of me was a car that had an infinity symbol in its back window. And I've never seen that on a back window. And from that point forward, this began to happen in my life. That vision that I held of bringing that beauty here has continued an upward spiral, going faster and faster, exponentially more beautiful ever since that day, that I know ties back to all these other experiences. There's this common thread. And what it's done is it has made me feel now completely in touch with the perfection that lives inside of me, that lives inside of everybody. I do believe that there's nothing wrong with me at all. Any feeling I feel, I know how to handle it and can experience it. That has made me completely loving to myself and everyone else I encounter. It has made me also fearless. It has given me the courage to want to have people know that this lives in them so much that I just keep taking more and more risks to be vulnerable and to share my story and to put it out there and even to spend all the money that I make so that people can know this lives in them. It has completely changed my ability to run. I'm faster than I was when I was young. I have control over what I eat well because I just trust myself and I know what I want. I am honest everywhere I go because there's no reason to lie. Because I know what we are. I know what we're doing. I know what my life's about. And I don't have to be perfect because I already am. And everything that's not perfect, I can admit so that it will get cleaned out. It has made me courageous, honest, loving. And now my dreams that I'm dreaming are no longer for me. What I dream now that I wake up every day with aliveness, energy, motivation, physical energy coursing through my veins, passion for what I'm doing, I don't have any more personal dreams truly. I mean, there are a few, but what I dream about now is for every human being to know what we are and to start living this way. That's what wakes me up. That's what I dream about when I go to sleep. And this is a level of consciousness that I didn't know existed, but spiritual teachers talk about it. They talk about it. It's very possible to have your dreams be for everyone. And that is how I'm living now. If it happens to pan out that this message goes and it does end up paying me, great. I have a few dreams. I'll spend a little money on that. But most of it's going to go to keep getting this message out in new ways, in applying it to different avenues that need it on this earth. So there are levels of consciousness that live inside of us, and I know it because I've experienced it. I am not the same person now that I was 1 year ago, and I'm a completely different person than I was 4 years ago. And I found that this accelerates. The synchronicities that have come into my life now are faster. What I dream about when I sleep, completely different than what I dreamed about before. I actually will wake up from dreams now and feel my body enervating. Like there's just energy coursing through me. I know that our potential is endless. I'm not at the end. It keeps going. But I'm already experiencing levels of consciousness that I did not know existed before. It is because of this knowledge and then applying it into my hypnotherapy practice where I can tap somebody's spirit and what they truly desire and want and know that they deserve it. And know that anything that's in their way can be eradicated and can be just shrunk to the right size for their spirit to move straight over it. Move them into doing things they never thought possible. And I never tire of people telling me, it worked. I'm no longer smoking. It worked. I'm no longer drinking. It worked. I just got that promotion that I was dreaming about. It worked. My relationship is amazing. I never thought it could be this good. I will never tire of making that happen. But what did happen is when it was happening one at a time, and I knew everybody everywhere needed it, that wasn't enough. And that's why I'm here. I hope that this story resonates with you in some way. I hope that something inside of you thinks that what I'm saying seems true, or at least that you can't forget about it. This is going to haunt you to know that you are more than people have taught you, probably a lot more than your religion has taught you. I'm sorry, but too many religions keep us down. They don't teach us that we can achieve Christ consciousness. And if yours isn't teaching you that, then it's time for you to leave. You don't need a mediator between you and spirit. You don't need a mediator between you and God, unless it is showing you that you can achieve high levels of consciousness that make you more loving, more free, more energized, more courageous. Then it's not serving you. I hope this has made a difference for you, because I love you.